This is a fictional alternate timeline for entertainment. It's not news, not advocacy, and not a claim about real events. Welcome back to the super-bloc timeline. Last episode was the resources game. Not just oil and gas, but food, fertilizer, critical minerals, and the processing that turns raw materials into power. And the key idea was simple. If one system can coordinate inputs, it can control tempo. But today we hit the next layer. Because once resources and trade are bundled, the world runs into a terrifying question. Who controls the money rails? This is episode 4, The Money Shift. And here's the hook. Most people think power looks like ships and tanks, but in modern life, power often looks like a payment that goes through or a payment that does not. Because if trade is the road, payment rails are the fuel. And if the fuel is controlled, the road does not matter. In this fictional timeline, the super-bloc doesn't announce a new empire. It announces something that sounds boring. It announces a unified settlement and trade finance system designed to make internal commerce faster, cheaper, and more predictable. That sounds positive, and for members it is, but for everyone else, it introduces a new reality. Money becomes a border, not a wall, a filter. Now let's make it human. Picture a resident, normal day, bills, groceries, subscriptions, the usual. Then one small thing happens. A payment takes longer than normal. Not forever, not dramatic, just pending. And most people shrug at first. But then a second thing happens. A subscription fails. A service pauses. A checkout screen spins longer than it should. And a thought hits that's older than money itself. What if I can't access what I already earned? That's when the fear arrives. Because people don't panic at bad news. They panic at uncertainty. Now picture a small business owner. This episode hits them like a hammer. They don't just need money, they need timing. Payroll clears on a certain day. Suppliers get paid on a certain day. Invoices are expected on a certain day. So when settlement slows or compliance checks expand, it's not an inconvenience. It's a chain reaction. A supplier waits. A shipment waits, a project waits, a client waits, and the business owner feels it in the most brutal place, trust. Because customers don't care why you're delayed, they care that you are delayed. Now picture a bank compliance officer, a shipping insurer, or a trade finance worker. This is where the system becomes real, because finance isn't just money, finance is permission. In this timeline, the super-bloc builds a fast internal permission system with faster settlement, unified risk scoring, shared insurance pools, and trade financing that moves like a highway. And it works. Inside the block, deals close faster, projects start faster, cargo moves smoother, risk premiums drop. And that creates a magnet. Because companies love one thing more than cheap prices, predictability. Now, here's the open loop. The super-bloc says the new rails are about stability. But stability can also become leverage. Because when a system can approve transactions instantly for insiders and slow transactions for outsiders, it can steer behavior without ever saying the word sanction. Not punish, just delay. Not ban, just verify. Not block, just review. And in business, review is often the same as no. So what happens next? Step 1. Trade finance inside the block becomes cheaper and faster. That attracts more trade into the block's orbit. Step 2. Insurance inside the block becomes cheaper because risk is pooled. That attracts more shipping into preferred corridors. Step 3. Outsiders face higher premiums, slower settlement, and more compliance friction. Not always, not everywhere, just enough to make planning harder. And planning is what modern economies run on. Now here is the emotional twist. Residents do not understand payment rails. They do not care about settlement systems. They care about one thing: does my life still work? And when a payment fails once, people adapt. They keep cash. They hoard basics. They change providers. They get anxious. And anxiety spreads faster than facts. Small businesses react even faster. They diversify banks. They prepay suppliers. They avoid risk. They delay hiring. They cut costs. In other words, they shrink into survival mode. And that is how a financial shift becomes a social shift. Now, what about America? In this fictional timeline, America sees the move immediately, because America's strength has always included financial infrastructure and trust. So America responds in 4 ways. 1. It reinforces its own payment networks with partners. Faster corridors, bilateral settlements, more reliability. 2. It strengthens compliance technology, not to punish people, but to keep its rails trusted. 3. It competes for predictability, because in a split world, trust becomes a product. 4. It pushes for standard setting, because whoever defines the rules of finance defines the shape of trade. Here is the key outcome. The world becomes 2 financial climates. Inside the super-bloc, transactions feel smoother, faster, and cheaper. Outside, transactions feel riskier, more expensive, and uncertain. And that difference pulls the world like gravity, because businesses go where planning is easiest. Now, the biggest danger of this episode is miscalculation, because when systems split, mistakes multiply. A delayed payment becomes a delayed shipment. A delayed shipment becomes a missed deadline. A missed deadline becomes a broken contract. A broken contract becomes retaliation. Retaliation becomes escalation. Not because people want it, because systems collide. So here's the cliffhanger. If money rails become borders, then the next battlefield is not currency. It is standards. Because once payments split, the world asks which technology stack is allowed to connect, which cybersecurity rules apply, which cloud systems are trusted, which telecom standards become the default. In a world of 2 systems, compatibility becomes destiny. If you want episode 5, hit like so YouTube knows you want the next part, and subscribe so you don't miss it when it drops. And tell me in the comments, would you rather live in a world where payments are smooth, or a world where payments are free? Because the next episode is called 2 Tech Worlds, and that's where the timeline stops feeling theoretical.